We'll do the 17th Maimer in Maimorim Meluket, the Maimer Kate Som Lachosha. The Rebbe said this Maimer in Shabbos Parshas Devorim. It was Tisha B'Av Nidcha. Tisha B'Av came out on Shabbos, so Tisha B'Av was pushed up for Sunday. So on the Shabbos of Devorim, the Rebbe said this Maimer, this was in h'tshked Chav Dalet. And then later on, the Maimer was published in the Kuntras Chamisha Osir B'Av Tinosei, Tovshinun Aleph, in Kuntras Chamisha Osir B'Av. And this was published in honor of Chamisha Osir B'Av, and the date on this publication is Thursday, Hey, in the portion of Chanon, which was the 14th of Menachem of Hey Tinosei, in Tovshinun Aleph. This Maimer, as the Rebbe will say inside, the Rebbe Rashab in Tofresh Ayin Dalad in the Hemshech, Tofresh Ayin Dalad in Parshas Dvorim Tisha B'Av Nidcha said this Maimer that opened up with Kate Som Lacheshech, which the Rebbe is basing this Maimer on. And the Rebbe suggests that the reason why he said this particular Maimer, Kate Som Lacheshech, which is a pasuk in Eiv, that there will be an end to the darkness, is because it's a Tisha B'Av Nidcha, and it's a good time to sort of get rid of the tiness in a way of bringing about the end of the darkness and bringing about the Geula. So the Rebbe Rashab, the Rebbe explained, said this Maimer about Oir, about bringing light into the world, because the light is that gets rid of this Choshech, the Choshech HaGolus. And that's why he said the Maimer Kate Som Lachosha, the Rebbe explains for the Rebbe Rashab, understood that this is actually what the Rebbe explains. The majority of the Maimer later on will talk about the idea of the oir, of the idea of light, the various levels of bittul that is in the oir, me'ein ha'moir, the recognition of the moir, the bittul the moir, and the rotzui to the moir, as the Rebbe will explain the different levels, three levels, both in the level of oir in the spheres and also in avodas hodom. Let's look inside and we'll go step by step. P'siyata d'shmaya, Shabbos Parshas Dvorim, Tisha B'Av Nidcha, h'tshked Chav Dalet. Kate Som Lacheshech. There'll be an end to the darkness, so no more darkness. So Be'isa B'Medrash. So the Rebbe is going to explain now that there's two levels of why there isn't darkness. Either because there is light and the light doesn't allow for darkness, the light pushes away the darkness. But there is also a higher level of kates. There's no an end to darkness. There doesn't exist darkness anymore. The Rebbe brings down. It says in the Medrash we find that Zman nosan la'olam kamo shonim yaseh ba'afelo. Hashem gave a time limit how many years it will be, the world will go in darkness. There's a set time. Umevayer ha'tzemach tzedek. And the Tzemach Tzedek explains Shehu al derech ma shekosuv bezoyar al haposuk. That this is similar to what the Zoyar says on the verse of Shlomo HaMelech. He says in Koheles, Peri Gimel Posuk Aleph, he says over there, L'chol zman ve'eis l'chol chayfetz. There's a time for everything and for everyone. And he counts over there 14 times, Eis Ledaber, Eis Lischek, Eis 14 times it says over there. So the Zohar quotes on this pasuk that says there's a time for everything. So the Zohar says, Sheyesh Zman Kotzuv L'choshech HaGolus. So the Zohar said there's also a set time for the darkness of Golus. There's a time set for Golus. So the Rebbe asks, okay, since there is a time for everything, why is it unique a time for Choshech HaGolus? It seems like this is something the Zohar says here, that there's also a set time for Golus. If there's a set time for everything, there's a set time for Golus as well. The Rebbe will explain it's a set time in which there will be no existence of darkness. Let's look inside. Tzorich lahavin, so we need to understand the kivon shekol hadvarim shabaylam. Yesh lahem zman kotzuv, since all matters of the world have a set time, as we say, l'koil zaman. There's a time for everything. Ma'hu achidush b'keit som lacheshech. So what's the novelty that there's an end to darkness? That it says in the pasuk in Iyov that there is an end to darkness. There's an end to everything. And even more, it's not understood. The Meloshin HaKosuv Kate Som Lacheshech Mashma. The fact the pasuk says an end he will place to the darkness, meaning that the Eibishter had to place an end to darkness, which if the Hashem Kodesh Baruch Hu would not interfere, the darkness would be going on. But the Eibishter is he makes an end to the darkness. It's mashma shachayshech mitzad atzmoi ein loi kates, that the darkness on its own has no end. Eloshesom loi kates, but the Eibishter put an end to it. So the Rebbe explains that here it's different when we're saying that there's an end to darkness. It's not meaning that the darkness isn't going to be all the time. It means that the darkness is going to be eradicated, that there's no more going to exist darkness. We can say the explanation in it. דזה שהדבורים הבלתי רצויים אינם נמצאים בי"ד העיתים שנקצבו לטובו. Why are the undesirable matters not found amongst the 14 times that have been set for the good? Why is there no negative? Why isn't there undesirable things? There's only good. The answer is because when there is good, when there's light, the choshecha disappears. But it is not to say that it doesn't exist darkness. It just means that the darkness cannot be visible. It's only that actually we don't have, when there is the 14 times, the good is there. There is no bad. There's no bilti ritzuyim at that time. Because through the good matters that exist then, so those undesirable matters are negated. So when that's like light pushing away darkness, the good doesn't allow for the bad to be there actually, but it doesn't mean that bad doesn't exist. It just means that they're misbattled. So the poil, they're not there. The same thing is with light and darkness. Oir pushes away darkness, which means when there is oir, the darkness gets pushed away. It doesn't eradicate the darkness, but in the place of where there is oir, the darkness is sort of pushed out of its place. and not even a lot of oil, even a little oil. Ad shafilu ma'at oil, doicha harbe choshech. Even a little bit light pushes away lots of darkness. Be'inyan kate som lachoshechum. And what's the idea that the Eibishter made an end to darkness is not just pushing away darkness. That means there is no existence of darkness anymore. After the end of the darkness will be after the Golus. When Mashiach will come, it'll be the end of darkness. It's not going to be just pushed away. It would not apply. The idea of choshech does not apply. Who? This, that the future redemption will be an eternal redemption, that there will be no golus. Once the geula comes, it's it because there is no more darkness. Because at that point it would not be possible any darkness of golus anymore. So is an end to Cheshach. So that answers the Rebbe asked. Everything has a time, but yes, it has a time in which it overrides the darkness. But here, the Kate Som Lachoshech, what the Eibishter did is not just override, but just got rid of it totally. That's the Chiddush, that the Choshech is rid, and that got written of, and that's why after the Geula of the Mashiach, in the end, Agula Hasida, there will be no more Golus afterwards because there is no Choshech anymore. So the Rebbe explains now that all light can create the first level of pushing away darkness. Even if the oir is a light which is a limited oir, that too has the power to push away darkness. But in order to eradicate darkness, in order to get rid in Kate Som Lachoshech, that's a Gilui of Bligvul. Base. This difference, how we negate darkness. Im hurak nidcha mipnei ha'or, is it only being pushed away from the light? Oy she'ein shaykh klal mitziusei, or its entire entity does not fit, does not belong, tolui bedargas ha'or. That depends on the level of oir. Shebichdei litches es ha'choshech, in order to just push away the darkness, but even after it's been pushed away, there's still the entity, there's still darkness, but it doesn't, the pilot doesn't come. That can also come down through a limited level of oir, light. To the extent it could be limited. It could be a little bit of oil that pushes away choshech. Limited and a little. In order for darkness to be totally negated, that's through a unlimited oil. The gilui, Kate Som Lachoshech La'osid Lovoi, because it's a gilui of bligvul, that takes away choshech altogether, that it doesn't exist. Okay, the is of the medrash, like we find in the medrash. The zeh shehageula the Yitzias Mitzrayim. Over there, the medrash compares the redemption of Yitzias Mitzrayim and the other, when the Yidden went out of Egypt, and the other geulas that the Yidden experienced. They were compared to a candle. A candle light can be extinguished, but the geula of Mashiach in the future is compared to the geula of daylight. Daylight you can't extinguish. So the Medrash says like this: the zeh geula the Yitzias Mitzrayim, the fact that the redemption when we went out of Mitzrayim, of Egypt, the same thing is true in the redemption of Golus Bavel, after the and also the other redemptions up till the future redemptions. All those redemption while they were a redemption, but then it was followed by a Golus. But Geula Ha'asida Tiya Geula Nitzchis She'ein Acharei Golus. But the future redemption is going to be an eternal redemption that has no exile after it. It's going to be eternal. So why is it? Who the Medrash explains. Why is there another Golus after the redemption? Is who Geula the Yitzias Mitzrayim Midugmas Oir Haner Sheshayich B'Kibbutz. So the Medrash says the redemption of the Exodus of Egypt is similar to the light of a candle. It's possible to extinguish it. So there was a lamp, there was a light, there was a candle, and that was the Geula, but then it extinguished. But the redemption of the future is similar to the daylight. It doesn't apply over there, no extinction. Can't extinguish it. Hainu. So what does it mean? This means, like the Rebbe explained, that la'asid lavid will be a bilig vul, oir, which eradicates the chayshech. Hainu, shagilui the geula ha'asida yiyah, gilu oir bilti mugbal. It's going to be a revelation of light which is unlimited. Since it's unlimited, shein shayich by hepsik. Over there, it doesn't fit to interrupt. It's unlimited, so it's all the time. It's a geula, a lasting geula. That's why it's going to be an eternal redemption with no golus to follow. Okay, so we know that we have a greater oir revelation that's going to come down in Osid Lavi. Now, how do we bring down the light of Osid Lavi? It all starts with Torah. The light of Torah is Torah oir. Through the Torah that we learn, the Torah has the light, the bli gvul light in it, and that brings about the geula. And when we learn specifically within Torah, the area in Torah that talks about Oir and Chassidus, that learning itself brings down the level of Oir to merit this Oir Habligvul in the Geula when Kate's some Lachosher. And that's why the Rebbe explains, the Rebbe Rashab gave this Maimer on Tisha B'Av Nidcha because he wanted to bring down that level of oil to push it away even further, to bring about the Kate Sam Lachosha. Gimel, Behina Yadua, Shekol Gilu Al Yidei Torah. All revelations come through Torah. We're talking about the Giluyim of La'asid Lavai and the Gilui now, but all the Giluyim is through Torah because Torah is oil, Torah is light. So Mizem Muvan. So which Torah did the Rebbe Rashab want to teach? Mizem Muvan. Since the way to negate the darkness of the Golus is through light, because that is the way to get rid of the Choshech HaGolus, and to get the Oir HaBlikvul, to get really rid of the Golus for permanently. in order to bring closer and to hasten even more the future redemption. That is by studying in Torah the subject of Oir. That's going to hasten, and the Torah Oir hasten the Gilui from the Geula Hasidah. And the Rebbe says, Lahoyer, I want to point out the Bahadrush Shel Admur Marashab Nishmos Eden. In the Maimer of the Rebbe Rashab Nishmos Eden, Shenemar B'Shabbos Tisha B'Av Nidcha, which was said on Shabbos, which Tisha B'Av was a Nidcha, which was in Tov Reish Ayin Daled. This is that year, that was a Nidcha, and that's in the Hemshech of Tov Reish Ayin Beis, Hemshech Ayin Beis. So the Dubar Binyan Hoir, he discusses there about the idea of Hoir, which the Rebbe is going to review now. The Eshloimar, so we can say Shashayich is the Inyan Zel Tisha B'Av Nitchahu. So what's the connection discussing Hoir to a Shabbos that has been pushed away? Ki Tisha B'Av she'achal b'Shabbos v'nitcha, because Tisha B'Av that comes out on Shabbos and then it's pushed away to Sunday, Humisugal, it has that special quality, Lifoil, when we learn about Oyer Shiyeh Nitcha L'Gamri, given the Idche to go ahead and push it away totally. Udchiyah Subitl HaGolus Oyer, and to push away and to negate exile is through light. So that's why he was discussing, and through Torah, that's why he was discussing the idea of Oyer. So now we're going to get involved in the whole idea of Oir. Oir, and the Rebbe is going to talk about 3 levels in Oir. Each one is a greater level of bittul, of Oir. Oir, in essence, reflects Oir me'ein hamoir. It's a reflect. Something reflects means in of itself, it's a non-entity. It's a reflection of something else. It's itself. That's the Oir. Oir reflects the Moir. That's one level. And then we have the level that the Oir senses the Moir, which is a deeper level of bittul. And then we have a level of Oir, which is yearning and runs to the Moir, which is even a higher level of bittul, which the Rebbe is going to articulate now. But generally, Oir is non-entity, and Kalim, Oir versus Kalim, are entities. So we talk about, for example, in Atzilus, as we'll see, these 3 levels, Keser, Chochmah, Bina, the 3 levels of Bittul. So the level of Kalim are entities. They are a Yesh. The Oir is Bittul. And the Maimer explains the Rebbe Rashab's Maimer in Tov Reish Ayin Daled and the Shabbos Tisha B'Av Nidcha. He explains there the Oir hu Ayin. Oir is non-existence, bittul, self-effacement. It's not empty. The achiluk bein Oir v'keli hu. What's the chiluk between generally Oir and a keli? Hu she'oir hu ayin, v'keli hu yesh. An oir is level of ayin, a non-entity. It's a non-mitzias for itself, and the keli is a yesh, is a mitzias. So, but mainly we're going to discuss now the bittul of oir, the 3 levels of bittul of oir, and then the way it's in Sfiris, and then the way it's in Avodas Hadar. Bittul, the Oir, Gimel Madregas. In the subjugation of Oir, there's 3 levels. Habittul, the Oir mitzad atzmei. Just the subjugation of Oir on its own. Oir without additional recognition by the Oir. Just Oir itself. Mipnei she'Oir hu me'ein hamor. The light is from the Moir, It is not an entity by itself. It's me'ain, a reflection of the moir. That's number one. Number two is v'habitl shaboy, the bitl which is in oir, al yidei shenirgash boy mekoirei. That is by feeling its source. When we say these are actually three levels that the Rebbe will explain, the way the oir in the kli of bina in Atzilus, there is the way the oir is in the kli of chokhmah of Atzilus, and then the way the oir which is in keser. So the oir in the lowest level of its bittel, the way it's in bina, is me'ena moir. That's just bittel by definition of oir. But va'bittel sheboy al yidei shenirgash by mekoire. But the bittel that is in oir, because it senses its source, it feels its source, that's already a higher level of bittel. Va'bittel shaloi mitzateva harotzui v'ha'aliyah shaboy lekolel b'mekoire. The third level of bittel is because oir has the nature of running. It running and elevation, that it wants to be included in the mocker. That's the third level. So there is the level of oir on its own, its level of bittel. The level, a deeper level of bittel, is because it senses its source. And then the low and the even higher level of bittel is the rotzu to be included in the mocker. So first, the Rebbe is going to ask, how is the second level of bittel that we're saying here that the oir senses the moir? How is this different that because he senses his mocker, his bittel, how is that different than we're saying the oir itself is meina moir? So the Rebbe explains this. But tzorich lahavin. So we have to understand, Haregam habitl, the oir, shemitzad atzmei, even the bitl, also the bitl, which is just by definition, the oir, is a reflection, hu l'chayr zeh. What's the bitl? She'oir einay mitzias la'atzmei. Because an oir isn't a entity by itself. The inyone, what is oir? What is the idea of oir? It's only a reflection revealing the luminary, the source of his light. He's not by himself, he's just reflection of the moir, of the luminary. That's why, that's the bitl of oir. That's what bitl of oir is. Umau achilik behein ha'oir atzmai. So what's the difference between oir itself, it's bitl because it reflects the moir, she'enyonihu gila hamoir, because its idea is gila hamoir, lezesha nirgash bei mekoire. What does it mean? No, it feels its source. How is that different than oir by itself? As the Rebbe will explain in a minute. And the Rebbe asks another question, because the Maimer goes on to explain over there that when it senses the second level in the bittel of the oir, that it senses the makir, it becomes bittel. It's a bittel of loy choshiv, of not importance, like considered nothing. So how is considered nothing a bigger bittel than oir who has no, not being important, doesn't seem like to be such a great bittel as non-existence because it's mein amoir. Gam tzorich lo, also we need to understand. Mashakosu ba Maimer, the Maimer writes over there, shahabitl shabaha oir al yidei shenirgash boi mekoiroi hu habitl de kolei choshiv. that the bittul of the oil, through the fact that the source is felt in it, is a bittul of loichoshim, that it's no importance. That's the greater level of bittul that comes to the oil through feeling its smoking. What does that mean? How is that a greater level of bittul? The first level, that oil isn't an entity by itself, but its whole aspect is to reveal and be a reflection of the moir, of the luminary, who that would seem bittul gadol yoser ma bittul dikalei chashiv. That is a greater bittul than this bittul that the Maimer says of not being considered anything, like considered like nothing, that is achieved through the higher level of bittul, that it feels its mocker. What's going on over here? Here we're saying that it reaches a higher level, the Maimer says there, the Rebbe Rashab, that because now it feels the mocker, then it feels like choshev. Like choshev doesn't seem like more bittul than the bittul of the herb by itself. As the Rebbe explains now in the bracket further, ki habitul de keloi choshev hurak b'negeya lachashivusei. The bittul, the subjugation of not being considered not important, is only as it relates to the importance. That the oil is not important. It's not talking about its essence, existence. Somebody can exist and not be important. Here we're saying, well, it's lechoshev, it's not important. But we're not saying it doesn't exist. It's only as far as important. It has no comparison and it has no importance relative to its smoker, to the moyer. But that doesn't affect the essence of this oil. So how are we saying this is greater? And the Maimer says, that the bittul that is added to the light, to the level of oil, is through feeling of mekoirei, ala bittul shaloi mitzad atzmei, and the bittul which the oil is by definition on its own, shenyon hu gilu hamoir, which is just reflecting the moir. It's greater who a bittul de kolei is the bittul of not importance. How is the bittul of leichoshiv more than the bittul of the etzem ha'oir, that oir is gilu hamoir? So what does it mean? First, the Rebbe asked, what does it mean, the oil by itself and it feels its smoker? And what is the added bittul of lechashiv to the etzem? The Rebbe explains this now. The Rebbe explains that the oir me'ein hamoir is only the metzias oir and not the mehus oir. And what it feels, the second level, is that the oir feels the mahus of the oir. Let's look inside. So we can say the explanation of this, based on what it's known. The hagam she'oir hu me'ein hamoir. Even though oir is from similar, is part of the moir, it's a reflection of the moir, that doesn't mean that it's an oir from the entire moir, only the metzias hamoir. The oir tells us a reflection of the existence of the moir, not what the moir is. Tagam she'oir hu me'ein hamoir mikol makom, kivon she'hamoir hu muvdal meha'oir. Since the moir is separate from the oir, It's separated from the oir, meaning the moir is not pushes the oir. The oir reflects the moir. It's not engaged. The moir isn't engaged related to the oir. The oir simply reflects. That means there's a interruption between the moir and the oir. The moir is not a direct act of the oil doesn't come directly from the moir. The l'chein shahamoir kiv shahamoir umuvd l'moir shahamoir einay moker l'hoir. The moir is not a source for the light. V'rakshu nimtza mimenu. It comes from it, but it's not engaged in it. L'chein ze shehoir megala samoir. This that the oil reveals the moir. It's only the existence. Oir tells us that there is a moir over there, but it doesn't tell us mahusay, what the oir is, what the moir is. It's just revealing that there is a moir there. But yet, because of its connection, it can feel. It doesn't reveal the mahus of the oir. It only reveals the mahus, but it itself, the oir, senses the moir, the mahus of the moir, el shafal pikein, but still. Mitzat ve'kusei shel ha'oir b'hamoir, because of the connection of the oir to the moir, nirgash boy gam mahus ha'oir, mahus ha'oir. In the oir is also felt the mahus, the essence of the moir, while it doesn't reveal the mahus moir, but the oir senses the mahus moir. Shamudu moir venim is galaboy. That part in which the moir is separate from the oir and it doesn't reveal in it, but yet the oir, he doesn't reveal that part, the mahus, but the oir itself feels the mahus of the moir also. That's through feeling the mahus of the oir, he is negated from his existence. What is the existence of oir? Oir is reflection. Oir reflects the moir. That's what oir is. But by the oir sensing the moir, it becomes negated from the mitzias of reflecting the moir. The mitzias oir validezo mispatum mitziusei, and through feeling the moir, it negates itself from its existence. The mitzias oir hu gilui hamoir. The entity of light is the entity of oir. This that it reveals the moir. That's its mitzias. But validei shenirgash boy shahamoir mahus hamoir. And then when it feels the moir, which means it feels the mahus hamoir, hu lemailo megilui, that the mahus cannot be revealed through that sense in oir, and it's already another step in the level of oir. And that the revelation has no comparison. That means next to the moir, whom is battle say he is negated from its mitzias, that because it senses that what it is megala is not what the moir is, it's uncomparable. So the kiloi choshiv is to tell us that its mitzias of gilui hamoir is not really anything, because the essence, the mahus of the moir cannot be nizgala, and it feels it. So therefore, it becomes nizbatul mimitziusi. That's the second level of. That's why the loy choshiv is an additional a level of bittul that it's misbattled from its metzius of being gilui hamoir, realizing that it can only be megale the metzius and not the mehusa, and it feels the mehusa, b'meila it's this battle metziusa. But this is not yet the ultimate. It seems like so. How could there be a third level in bittul? This is level 2. But then there is the level in which there is the level of ratzon. But still, gam habitl de oir al yidei shenirgash bei mekoirei, eine bitl legamri. Even this bitl of the oil, by sensing its source, is yet not we have the highest, the third level. This is not yet bitl legamri. Why? The kivon sheha oir v'hamoker sheloi hem shnei inyonim. The oir and the moker, the moir, are two separate matters. Yes, the oir feels and is in this battle because it feels the moir, but it is still, it's not moir. There is moir and there is oir. And the oir is outside of the moker. So what does it mean when we say that the oir feels the source? The oir feels the source, which is not him. He feels something which is outside. He feels the source. It's not himself, but it feels outside of him, separate. That does not touch, it's not negated to the essence existence of the oir. Oir is bittul, is nisbattle from something outside, but not from within himself. The subjugation which comes through this feeling, it's only that feeling is in the expansion of oir and not in the essence of existence of the oir. As the Rebbe will explain how all of these different levels of bittul are in spheres and in avodas ha'adam. So, but here in the oir, we're explaining is that level of bittul touches the spashtus of a oir, but not the etzem of oir, because in etzem is still too separate from the oir. While you feel the bittul of לחושך, but it's not in the essence of oir, but it's in the spashtus of oir. The oir bittul legamri, and what is the main bittul of oir? Total bittul in his whole essence, not in his pashtus. Who are bittul shemitzad harotzui shaloi lekolo b'mkoyre. That is because of that is the bittul, because of its desire of the oir to be included in the source. The kivon sherotzin negeil etzim mitziusay, because that's what it wants. That touches not his pashtus, that touches etzem. Wanting to be included is something which is the essence. As the Rebbe brings down, Kepirush HaBaal Shem Tov ala posik, Serafim Eimdim Imaloid. The Baal Shem Tov teaches, what does it mean, Serafim, the angels, that Serafim are standing above Hashem, because they are desire to go higher, and their desire places them higher. Shaidei harotzin shalahem likolel be'erin sof, because they want to be included in the Erin sof. Heim kimoinim tsoim amdim shom. They are standing there, like find themselves and standing there. Srafim amdim. They are standing in the ma'aloi because they want to go out to the level of Erin sof. So they are there. That means the rotzin takes them. Their whole being goes over there. When you want something, that's your whole etzem. The b'makom shel ritzono shel adam shamu nimtza. That where the person wants over there, he finds himself. You say the mezusha shamu nimtza kuloi. Over there, he's totally, his entire being is where he wants. Lachein, al yidei sheroitza likolil b'mekoire. When the oir wants to include the highest level of bittul, the third highest level of bittul, that wants to be included in the mocker, who kamoy kolil b'mekoire. So then he's just like he's included in his source. V'lachein habittul sheloi mitzad harotzin likolil b'mekoire. So therefore, the bittul of the oir, because of the desire to be included in the mocker, that is already the etzem, hu bittul legamri. His whole being is bottle. Al derech habittul the oir kol b'moir, similar to the oir which is actually included in the moir, that it's not separate of the moir. So that is the ultimate and the third level of bittul. The first level of bittul is oir mein hamoir, which is reflection. The second level of bittul is that the oir feels that the moir cannot become be his galus and only is the mitzias of the moir, but the essence of the moir is not be his galus, causes a level of bittul of lechoshiv. But it's still like a separate entity because him and the mocker are separate. When he has the level of rotzen, that he wants to come up to the mocker, that becomes the etzem, it becomes like the oir is called moir in the highest level of bittles. So the Rebbe is now going to continue to say how these three oiras, how it impacts their hislapshus in the kelim, as we'll continue.